today's Ruptured Duck Podcast. Ruptured Duck Podcasts are talking about disability and accessibility in the arts. I'm Sophie Weaver, and today's guest is Ross Grant. Now, Ross, he's gone from drama school to casting assistant, actor, mentor, podcaster, and he's been part of a changing industry for the last 15 years. Now, before I speak to Ross, let's take a look at him in action.
Thanks for covering for me last Friday. Date went poorly though, so I'm still yours. See ya.
Oh my God. So it wasn't just me then?
Yeah, but I bet she never made you hold an umbrella over her head for 4 hours while she gave press interviews.
Mate, she made me drive to Glasgow for 14 hours to get her a kebab from a fave kebab shop because she was allergic to the hotel food.
A little bit of news, everyone. And it's congratulations to Bethany. Because they said, yeah, the Home Office has said that they'll fund you.
You're kidding me.
They're going to pay for Keenan Naru. You did it. You got it. You're in. It gets better and worse.
Sorry, ever caught you on a bad day?
No. Today's pretty good, actually. On a bad day, I can't get out of bed.
Oh.
Not seen you in ages. How are you?
Are you not? Living the dream. I've not seen you in here before.
So now I've got a meeting at 1:30. Bags of time. Shall I get us a nice bottle of red?
You're a bad influence. So who are you meeting?
Oh, I need a new solicitor for the business. I'm talking to Barlow Legal Services.
I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore.
The billboards are just the start. There's cinema, TV adverts we can exploit.
I want the family to share in the grand unveil.
Of course. The Excelsior package guarantees a 24-hour printing service. Signing with us gives you access to very competitive rates with our partners. That car was registered to a Simon Beardson. He reported it missing at approximately 7:45 this morning.
Must be a misunderstanding.
Well, maybe so. But I am going to have to arrest you on suspicion of taking a motor vehicle without the owner's consent.
That's all getting bought up for property, innit?
You're round a twist. This is the busiest port in the world.
So why are they offering you 1,200 quid to go away? That's a lot of piss-off money for someone they want to keep.
Mike.
Hello there.
Do you mind if I call you social worker 454?
Call me what you like.
He's here today to run through some emergency scenarios with you both.
Sort of like the Crichton factor, but slightly less assault coursey. On the plus side, I mean, you get to spend the rest of the night in the pub if you want.
I've got to get home.
You won't get this opportunity again, you know. I insist.
Maybe tomorrow.
Sure.
So, Ross, welcome to today's show. It's great to have you here.
Sophie, it is amazing to be here. Do you know what? I've done probably more podcasts myself where I've been a guest in the last 3 weeks than I have in the last 10 years. I don't know what's happened. Normally it's me being the interviewer, but it's lovely to be on other people's shows for once. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, I know. I've watched a lot of your and been on some of your interviews actually. So it's great to have you here. And you've worn various hats over the years. And I think it's coming up to the 10th anniversary of you setting up Act on This, a community and network for actors. Tell us a bit about that, how that started, why you wanted to set that up.
Oh, it's actually just a bit over 10 years now. I can't believe how fast time has gone. But yeah, what happened was I left drama school in 2005, and like most people who go to drama school, you leave full of enthusiasm for the industry, and you're like, I'm gonna be discovered. This is it. I've trained. Like, my time is here. I'm gonna suddenly, leave drama school, and I'll be catapulted onto TV and into films and all this kind of stuff. And 4 years later, Soph, none of that had happened at all, because I quickly realized that although I'd been taught a lot about the craft, about acting, obviously, I think anyone who goes to drama school can already, has a lot of talent anyway, can act because they have to audition multiple times to get into these establishments. But I just felt, and it's not knocking drama school at all or anything like that, I don't want anyone to take offense, but just hadn't prepared me for the business side of the business in terms of turning that talent into jobs. I didn't understand anything about casting, really. We didn't really get taught an awful lot about agents, who the best agents were, what the best approach was to, get an agent, all this sort of stuff. And ultimately, 4 years later, I'd been banging my head against a brick wall, working in a shop for minimum wage, trying to be an actor, getting absolutely nowhere. And I thought there's got to be an easier way. I need to understand how the industry actually works. So I'd always been a geek. I'd always built like online businesses and things like that. None of them had really had success, but like I knew how to build websites. And I had a look online, and this was back in 2005 when not many people had websites anyway. And I had a look at all of the casting directors who were casting the big TV shows up here where I am in Manchester. And I wrote to them all and I said, listen, you know, I've noticed you don't have a website, or your website's not great. I will make you a brand spanking new shiny website, but I would like to do it from your office. I just wanted to learn about casting, basically, because I thought I'm just not getting in the room. And there was one casting director called Beverly Keogh, who was amazing, is still amazing, cast some really huge shows. And her husband, Michael, massive shout out to him as well, Michael Jackson. Not the Michael Jackson, but he's a great guy as well. Michael just invited me in and said, right, okay, come and like get involved, basically. And I went in expecting to sort of do a website, and he said to me, I'm sure on the first day, he was like, right, you're casting this golf commercial for like a commercial for a golf company. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, you're going to help me with this. And it was just like it was just an incredible experience. To cut a long story short, I stayed there for about 2 years working with Michael. His casting partner at the time was a guy called Chris. We worked in the commercial department, and then I moved over to the drama department with Beverly, just as sort of like, the office assistant, ultimately, just booking people in, phoning agents to organize sessions. And I learned so much about casting and how it actually worked.
I was going to say that must have been an invaluable experience at that time.
Honestly, I wish every actor could kind of get that experience. I'm absolutely indebted to Beverly and Michael. They changed my career by giving me the opportunity just to observe, ultimately. And I thought, if I can put this information online, I can save actors those 5 years, or 4 or 5 years that I'd spent getting it all wrong. So I thought, right, I'm going to set up a little community. And I started off just recording phone calls, Sophie. It wasn't even like we had Zoom back then. Mm-hmm. I had implemented what I'd learned at Beverly's into my own career. And I'd got a couple of TV jobs. I'd done it wasn't huge. I'd done 6 lines on Emmerdale. I got a part in a show that Beverly herself cast called Accused. And that was a great first couple of credits for me. I had some great scenes with Peter Capaldi and Juliet Stevenson. I thought, wow, I'm actually making progress now. And every time I did a job, I'd just like ask the director, be a bit cheeky and say, hey, fancy having a chat with me on the phone about this? I run this website. And we literally just recorded phone calls, Sophie, and I'd put those on the website. And back in the day, I was like, to fund it, I think membership was like £3 a month or something like that. It's gone up a little bit since then. But it was just, a way for me to just bring people who I'd worked with in the community and just introduce them to others. And that was over 10 years ago now. Now, every single week we sit down and do a chat like this with a top casting director, agent, actor, writer, producer. And I think we've created a great community that you're part of. I mean, what do you think? Good or what?
Yeah, I think it's a great community. And as you say, what you learned, you've been passing on to those actors, like myself and many others, and being part of that network and community. I can see how they're progressing. Each week you hear of somebody, yeah, I've got my first role, and
yeah,
it's really great. And so passing that on, everything that you learned has been great. Obviously, you yourself, it made inroads for you. As you said, you've been on Emmerdale set, you've been in a cast that's included Peter Capaldi and many other names, without name dropping too much. But so on all of those sets, what were those experiences like? Good, bad?
All have been nothing but amazing. Honestly, like that, the people, the majority of people, 99% of people in our industry, Sophie, in that industry, just beautiful, lovely people who all just have a common goal to just create, great work, tell great stories. I think it's interesting how actors are so afraid when they're first starting out in the industry, and I was. Almost just intimidated by everybody, almost as if like, I don't know, it's like it's us versus casting directors or something like that. It's not. Everyone's in the same boat. They want to create great work. We all are there to support each other. So I found the sets that I've worked on, I've been really, really lucky. Probably done, I don't know, 25, 26 jobs over the years. And they've been great. The only thing that ever made them stressful if I'm completely honest and just transparent, was me on occasion around. And we spoke about this before we hit record, and we'll talk about it now, I'm sure. Living with the eye condition that I have. Sometimes,
yeah, I was going to ask about that, and as you just started to mention it, it's not something that you don't go about saying, "Hey, I'm somebody with an eye condition," which many disabled people don't do. They don't kind of make it their flag.
Yeah,
it's the people that do that.
Yeah, no.
But it might be interesting to kind of talk about how your eye condition does affect you, because there are certain things about being on set that is difficult for you, and maybe you can tell us about that and how you've coped with that or not over the years, and how things have changed to help you on set, in whatever ways.
Yeah, absolutely. So initially, starting out when I was trying to think, how old would I have been? About 20. I don't know, probably when I first got my TV job, 23, 24, something like that. I was at that age where you are just like, the last thing you want to do is announce that, you have a label. I'm disabled. I've got this thing. Like you said, you don't shout it around. You want to be accepted. You just want everything to appear completely normal. So for quite a long time, I didn't mention my eye condition at all. My eye condition really affects my peripheral vision. And it really affects my night vision, which in our world, because a lot of things sometimes, theatre, obviously, there's a lot of blackouts in theatre. I just don't want to do theatre. It's not what I enjoy. But TV occasionally, there's night shoots and things like that. And I used to never really kind of mention it. I would kind of struggle through, and I'd never ask for anything that I needed that might help me. And like I said before, we're all, looking to create a great piece of work. So I'm sure, and I've learned since, asking for what you need, people are really accommodating. I'll go, we'll give you whatever you want so that your performance can be as good as it can be. Our show can be as good as it can be. But for the first few years, I wouldn't say anything. I remember I did a show called Last Tango in Halifax, and I was playing an estate agent. Again, lovely couple of scenes. And they wanted me to drive a car into the driveway. And I was like, well, I'm not allowed to drive. But I didn't say that, Soph. I made an excuse up that, I'm really lazy. I've never learned to drive. I'm like, and I look back now and I cringe. I'm like, just tell them you've got a disability and you could not drive. And they would have been completely fine with it. They were fine with it anyway. But I just always found that I would make excuses. As I've got older and I've got more confident, and I've sort of, learned to own this disability and talk about it and be vulnerable. I've started to it's got worse as well. My eye condition has got worse over the years. So it's got to a point where I couldn't really hide it. I found that just again, asking for what you need on a set, people are super accommodating. So for me, one big thing, I did a job it came out before lockdown called The Stranger for Netflix, and I was playing this role, and it was in a cinema. And our cinemas are dark. And I'm like, oh, yeah. God, right. Okay, I mean, they're really dark. For me, it's like pitch black practically. So, when you're on a set and you have a scene, you'll get a mark on the floor. Very often as actors, we have to hit marks. They say, right, you've got to hit your mark. You come in, here's where you are. And that's so that the camera keeps you in focus and the camera guys know where you're going to walk to and exactly where you're going to be. So technically, it's all sound. And I've got no peripheral vision up or down and left or right. So hitting marks, I can't, be looking at the camera now and having a shifty little look at my mark down here like most people will be able to. I've no idea. So I have to actually look down. Now that's pretty distracting. I notice that sometimes if I'm watching myself back on things, I still go, okay, you've just clocked your mark there. The audience wouldn't know. They would have no idea. But what I started doing, one thing I was like, right, guys, there's got to be a better way to do this. Can I have bean bags on the floor, these little sacks, little bean bags on the floor where my marks are? Because then I'm going to feel it with my foot and I'll know I've hit my mark. I'm not looking for it. Little things like that. And just asking for a couple more rehearsals, just being really open with the director. Like Hannah Quinn, the director of The Stranger, was just the loveliest director in the world. I was like, Hannah, I just want to go again. Can I have another one, another crack at that? And I will start like I'll get on my mark and I'll start walking away from like where I'm going to begin while saying my lines. So almost like I can time by the, just in terms of how many steps I would have to take to hit the mark as well. You develop kind of little strategies. But on a whole, just asking for what you need. That's my advice for anybody living with a disability. Please ask that. If you open your arms to the industry and just embrace it and say, listen, this is who I am. This is what I'm living with. This is like the access or help that I need. The industry just opens its arms to you. Yeah,
I think that's great advice and really important, because as you say, when you were younger.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you're getting on a bit now, but when you start out, you kind of want to be perfect, you know.
Yeah.
You want them, you want to be liked, you know. You don't want to be putting off casting directors or directors. So, you know, I can completely understand. And when there's more of a hidden disability, that must be more difficult. As a wheelchair user, I can't hide that. So it's kind of out there. But I think that's really important. As you say, as you get older, you build that confidence to be able to say, hey, this is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, and if we can, as you're trying to do, instill that confidence into people starting out, that will probably be really helpful to them to understand that it's absolutely fine to say, I have some particular needs.
Definitely.
You know, and I'm sure directors are used to dealing with any individual's needs in whatever ways they are, because everyone's different anyway. You know,
Absolutely.
so
Yeah, absolutely. I think the industry's changed quite a lot as well over the last couple of years. And it's a bit cliched where we always say this, you know, kind of like, oh, well, you know, we're on the right track. It's getting better. And we always hear this thing, but, you know, we still got a way to go, but, you know, things are changing. But I genuinely like have seen some real change. And with a few organizations that have cropped up, you know, there's the disabled artists networking community. Shirley Houston from Corrie and Melissa Johns, great actress, set that up, and they've worked directly with directors and casting directors to really sort of put them at ease, because I think a lot of the problems about getting, you know, people with disabilities involved in TV and film was one, just a lack of awareness. Not like it was never a purposeful, like, we don't want any disabled people in the industry, but there was just a real lack of sort of like knowledge. I don't know about everybody's disability. That's why I was asking you about yours before, Sophie. Like, I'm really intrigued by the things that people are living with. So certain, you know, people just weren't aware that these things existed. And then on the other hand, dealing with those conditions and making sure people did have what they need on set. I think there was a lot of directors and casting directors and people in the industry nervous about going, I'm going to put my foot in it. I'm going to get it wrong. What if I upset Sophie by saying the wrong thing? Or what if I don't give the access requirements as required? Or I say the wrong name for a disability? You know, there's lots of people, Sophie, I'm sure over the years will have said, you know, use terms like wheelchair bound. And you're like, well, it's not really a nice kind of way to describe that. You know, it's a wheelchair user or whatever it would be, you know. And I think a lot of people just want to go sort of step away from it, and not because they're horrible, but just because they're like, actually, I don't want to be embarrassed or get it wrong or upset anybody. And I think the industry's changing now, where people are talking, dialogue is happening, and people are much more forgiving and like, look, we just want to be included. Doesn't matter if you get it wrong. If you're trying, that's really all that matters.
Absolutely. Open dialogue, I think, is the way forward in raising people's awareness. Coming back to the Act on This network, which the membership has grown and grown, I know, over the recent years.
Yeah.
Have you seen an increase in disabled members, and how do you feel that is going, and the impact that you're having for the disabled members?
I've seen a big increase, and I love it. We've got people with all, I say, I mean, I don't know. There's probably people with hidden disabilities as well that, you know, how many people do you walk past in the street who are living with something that you just don't know? You look at me, if you just walk past me in the street, if it wasn't at night and I wasn't falling over the pavement or anything, you'd be like, oh, you know, nothing wrong with him. He looks absolutely fine. So there's probably more than I'm even aware of. But yeah, you know, we've got lots of people in the industry and lots of people in the community living with all kinds of things, physical disabilities. We've got deaf members. We've got vision impaired members. I suppose I take the box for that as well. But we've got others in the industry, in the community as well. Autistic members. We've got people with cerebral palsy, people with multiple sclerosis, people like loads of different people who are all, again, owning their condition and using it as a USP. Like, you know, we get casting directors on every single week, and they're like, look, we need. A great casting director, Andy Morgan, said something so profound a couple of weeks ago that has stuck with me. He said, listen, I am only as good as a casting director. I am only as good as the actors that I know. And again, I'm just like, anyone, like, don't invalidate yourself by thinking, oh, you know, I'm not going to be as useful to the industry because I have this certain disability, thus I fit into a tiny niche. Like, that niche needs people in it. Like, and, you know, Andy will need to know that you are there if you stand any chance of being put in any show ever. So it's about sort of like, yeah, you know, really raising, again, it's an overused phrase, isn't it? But raising awareness that we exist in the industry. Act on This, definitely, I feel, you know, is empowering people to own that and you know, sort of shout about it and contact casting directors and stuff.
How encouraged are you by that membership increasing especially with disabled people coming forward and being part of it, not just in terms of your membership, but how encouraged do you feel that actually it means more disabled people are trying to get in the industry?
Well, I'm seeing it. You know, it's not just encouraging in terms of the evidence that I'm seeing of people actually landing jobs, and on both sides of the camera as well. You know, we had a director on recently, Jordan Hogg, who's got cerebral palsy. Awesome, lovely guy. He's just been taken through a BAFTA scheme called BAFTA Breakthrough. But you know, he's a massive advocate for the disabled community, so he's very aware that, you know, around inclusivity and bringing other people into his shows and things like that. He's just doing a spin-off of the I don't know if I can say that. Yeah, I can say that. I'm sure he might be doing that. He's doing a spin-off of a drama around disability with two lead actors in it who live with disabilities.
Yeah, I've
and that's a
spoken
big
with
show.
Jordan myself, and
Oh, have you?
yeah, great guy, and yeah, you don't often hear about the directors, and so, you know, and especially the fact that he's a director with a disability, so he's out there doing it, and that is really positive news.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, no, it is. As I say, that there has been a shift. It's not just platitudes and just saying, you know, oh, we're going to look out for a few more disabled people. I'm seeing it actually happen in the industry where we're seeing more disabled people in front of and behind the camera. I would like to get to a place where I think we all would. I don't really like the word diversity, really. I think we just need to start using the word reality. In terms of like in front, you know, in front of the camera or behind, it's like disabled people exist in the real world. We need to see them on a screen that's not just telling a story about a disability, that it's just they happen to have, you know, that, you know, I don't know, it could just be any little part in anything. That receptionist there just happens to be a wheelchair user. You know, this person in this scene just happens to, you know, wear hearing aids or whatever. Like, you know, there's just, it's just the reality of the world we live in, as opposed to going, can we just make sure that we've got someone in this cast who's disabled, just so we can say that we're, you know, sort of like ticking some boxes here. So it is more about just you know, not striving for diversity, but just striving for reality of the world that we live in, really.
So you have a great overview of what's happening in the industry, casting directors. You interview them each week, and you see what they're casting, who they're casting a lot. Do you feel that disabled people are still being cast in disabled roles, or are you seeing more of a shift towards being cast in non-disabled roles?
Yeah, I'm seeing a little bit of a shift. I still think that, and this is our responsibility as well, actually, Soph, you know, because this is going back before about, you know, when I said, like, you know, I don't know every disability out there. I think in order for almost kind of stories to be told that aren't just the almost kind of like the inspirational story. Here's someone with a disability who's overcome this, and, you know, we should all applaud them and clap them. For, you know, for more stories that aren't that to be told, because there's a lot of that being told by writers who don't have disabilities, and that's sort of like how they think people just want to be portrayed. I would like to see, and it is probably our responsibility, there are stories around my disability that are not that are, you know, I'm writing a comedy based on so many of the situations this has got me into, that it's just insane. This condition I have without sounding horrible, it makes you look like a dickhead a lot of the time, because you don't look disabled, you don't look like there's anything wrong, and then you end up doing things and not noticing stuff and walking into stuff and falling over stuff. And the situations I've got into, and like, only I can tell this story. I can't. It doesn't mean I have to write it. I could work with a writer, but only I can kind of tell this. And it's not one of these inspirational stories about, oh, how he overcame this. It's just funny life, basically. So I think that we have a responsibility to the industry to tell more of our own kind of stories, either whether we write them or we work with a writer. You don't have to be a TV writer to, you know, to be able to do this, so that we do see more shows that are where the disability isn't sort of like the key thing. It's about somebody with a disability, and yes, it crops up, but it's not just like, this is a story about someone, you know, who went through this terrible thing, you know. I don't want to see, you know, that all the time. So I'm seeing a little bit of that. Russell T Davies did a show called Years and Years that I was in, and there was an actress called Ruth Madeley in that. She's a wheelchair user. She's got spina bifida. She's great. And he wrote her into that. And there was no real, it wasn't around a disability at all. It wasn't, I think, until the second episode where you actually saw her using a wheelchair. So you didn't know she was disabled until that point, because you saw her out of a chair, just sat on the settee, and just, you know, it was all just very normal before that. It didn't really play a pivotal role in the piece. It was more just like a, oh, well, you know, her character just uses a wheelchair. That, you know, that's just it. So it is happening more and more. I think people are becoming more conscious.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. And you mentioning Russell T Davies writing her into a role, as it were, but it wasn't about her being disabled. But the fact that he'd written her, you know, as a person with a disability into a piece was a really important gear shift, maybe, that maybe we need more writers to take that step of perhaps specifying, without it being about the disability, that this could be played by a disabled actor.
Yeah, it played no part in the story. She was a feisty, like proper empowered, like woman in years and years. You know, sort of like arranging all kinds of crazy stuff. Like, you know, it wasn't like, oh, poor, you know, Ruth. You know, she can't, like, she just has a wheelchair and can't do anything. Like, you know, she like was a pivotal, like, super strong woman in the show. Yeah, the disability really wasn't, you know, it was mentioned, but it wasn't like the through line of the story for that character at all. It was just a secondary thing.
Yeah, and that's where I think that innovative writing can really come into its own, and hopefully other writers will do similar things. But in terms of moving forward, that's one way. How else do you think the industry can move forward in terms of representation of disability on screen?
Twofold, really. I mean, what do you think in terms of, because we all say about, you know, this ticking box exercise that we don't want, but on the other hand, in terms of sort of like fast tracking this and just making it more of the norm, maybe we do need a bit of that in terms of, right, okay, we do have to, you know, set a we just pledge ultimately, you know, networks. I would just like it, and I think some of this is going on where the BBC and ITV and Channel 4 and Sky actually pledge to go, right, a certain percentage of people who are seen for our shows, as in auditioning as actors, they you know, we will actively seek out disabled people, you know, people with disabilities, hidden or you know, seen, hidden or seen. I was gonna say visual disabilities, but no, that doesn't make sense. But yeah, you know, so they can pledge to do that. On the other hand, I think we, like I said before, we have a real responsibility. If I want to see more of me and people who live with, you know, visual impairment or blind people, I want to see them on TV. The way that I work is that I cannot sit back, feel entitled, and expect other people to make that happen. It's like, if I want to see that, because they don't have the knowledge of living with it, they can't tell a story authentically because they don't live with this. Like I said before, I'm aware of this condition 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you know, all the time, you know, the good and the bad. And that's down for me to tell that story. And like I said before, it doesn't mean I have to write it. A lot of people are like, well, I'm not a writer, it's so unfair. No, find a writer. There was a great guy, I'm trying to think who I was speaking to recently. It might have been Tom Sherry. He's the head of BBC Drama North. And he was saying, listen, you know, if you have a story, he goes, you don't have to write it. Come to me. You tell that me. And it's down to me then, as the head of drama, to pair you with someone who can help you put that into a script and get it done. If the story is compelling enough, I really want to hear about it, because they're crying out for content right now. We've just been through, you know, the last sort of year and a half in the pandemic, where we've probably consumed more content than ever before as human beings. So we've run out. We need to make loads of content, and people are looking for innovative stories and things that have never been told before. So I think a lot of the onus, we can't sit here and complain, Soph, and go back going, you're not being inclusive enough. You know, why aren't you writing parts for someone with retinitis pigmentosa? The writer will be like, I've never heard of retinitis pigmentosa. What is it?
Yeah.
It's down to me. So I think we need to come together as well and sort of, you know, create our own work to a certain extent.
Yeah.
You know,
I
you were talking
right.
about.
And I think you're saying about we all have a responsibility. And I think, you and I, you know, if we sit around looking and going through castings and think, oh, it doesn't specify disability, that's not for me then.
Yeah.
Then our attitude needs to change as well. And I think we've all got to be braver. I hate using, actually, that's a really bad word to use.
Do you know what? Courage is real, though, for everyone, disability or not. Like everyone could do with a little bit of extra courage, Sophie. 100%. Yeah.
Well, you know, every role has characteristics. So you have to be realistic with the role's characteristics. I'm no longer going to play somebody in their early 20s. That's unrealistic. But
easily 29, so
oh, I'll interview you again. But if I fit all the other characteristics of age, etc., and gender, and let's not go into other diversities at the moment, but if the characteristics are there, but it doesn't specify disability, doesn't mean to say don't apply for it. I and you, we can and should be applying for whatever roles we think we can fit.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah,
I'm hopefully disabled people are getting more and more encouraged to do that. I know I'm being bolder about applying for things and saying, I know it's not specified as a disabled role, but I think I would fit this perfectly, you know, and say why, you know, that I can still be a mother, you know, with a disability. This
absolutely.
person, you know, so I think you're right that us as disabled people, we too can be more bold, you
Definitely.
know, and hopefully that then also will lead into casting directors being bolder in their casting and thinking, actually, I know of this person, it's not a disabled role, but, you know.
Definitely. I think what it is what I was trying to allude to before is almost like, you know, maybe we pledge and we set these quotas initially to go, right, we have to make this happen. It forces people to do it. But then what happens is they go, wait a minute, that was actually working with that cast and 3 of them were disabled. That was actually so much easier than I thought. We can really make this happen. It doesn't cost a fortune more. We don't end up having to spend loads more time because we've got to, you know, sort of fulfill access requirements. It's not that hard. So they're going to be more encouraged to do it in the future. So maybe we almost need to sort of, you know, push the industry into doing it initially, prove the point that it's not that difficult. And then after that, other people that, you know, they'll just be like, well, actually, no, of course I'll see this person who, you know, is living with whatever, because we've done this before and proved that it's not that difficult. There was a drama school in Scotland. I think it was the Royal Conservatoire in Scotland. I think it might be that one. It could have been the Welsh one. They did a deaf actors showcase. I'm pretty certain it was 2019, I think. And before that, I don't think there'd ever been one. And I think there'd never been one because people just thought it's going to be really difficult. How do we do it? How do we make it accessible for, you know, for everybody to watch and appreciate? And they did it. And like the pieces that I saw written about it, it shouldn't have been groundbreaking in a nearly 2020 world, but it was. And I think they proved the point that it could be phenomenal. And I bet now there's probably not a drama school in the country who is not thinking about creating a program, you know, for disabled actors like that. Because I mean, on one hand as well, they've seen actually as a business, it's probably profitable because a lot of disabled actors are like, I want to train, I want a place that, you know, that I feel safe, you know, at, and I'm not just the only person living with a disability there. So I think, yeah, once you've proved the point and you have evidence that actually it's not as difficult as you think it would be, that's how we move the industry forward, because people aren't as nervous.
Yeah, which is great. And that is a shift change compared to back in the day when I would have perhaps gone to drama school, and didn't, because accessibility wasn't there for drama schools, you know. So yeah, we have come quite a long way, but you know, I mean, there still are problems in that area, but yeah, there has definitely been a shift change. Obviously, Act on This has been a real good thing for everyone that's part of the membership. What do you offer? What can you offer to people, especially those with disabilities, but anyone that becomes a member?
Oh, I can offer the best experience of your life and your career. So what we do is, honestly, it is really, the membership is so, I try to make it as valuable as possible. It's so legit as well in terms of the names that we get on. But basically, I got sick of seeing, Soph, workshops out there for actors that were 65 quid or one-to-ones that are like 25 quid and you get 10 minutes. I'm like, no, there's got to be a better way to do this. And this was before COVID. Like, obviously, this is many years ago when all of this stuff was in the room. Now it's all moved online. Everybody's sort of doing what I've always done. But yeah, I thought I can use the power of the internet to bring these names into people's homes at a fraction of the price that they're being charged to go to these, you know, these workshops for. Focus on the business of the business. I'm never going to teach anyone to act. That's not my interest whatsoever. You know, not acting classes or anything like that. But to teach people, I feel it's the missing part of the puzzle is actually the business acumen of how you get yourself out there in front of the right people and sell yourself. You're a product. As an actor, you are a product. Who are your customers? Well, they're the casting directors and the directors. How do you put yourself in front of them in a way that's going to pique their interest at a time where they're ready to buy effectively and go, yes, Sophie, I want to see you for an audition. And, you know, and then you end up getting work from that. So, so that's kind of like the focus of Acts on This. We bring on every single week a casting director or an agent or a top actor, writer, producer, director. I mean, we have BAFTA winners, Oscar winners, Emmy winners, like big names, as well as more, you know, not as well-known people, because I think you can learn from people at the start of their career just as much as you can from people at the top of their career. And yeah, we host a Zoom call every single week with one of those guests. Members get the chance to jump on, ask some Q&A. I do a presentation all about their career. And if it's a casting director, like, look, in reality, how do we get into your office? How do we get seen by you? Sort of very cut through the nonsense, straight to the point kind of chats. We do every other Friday. We do something called Rapid Fire Friday for members, where I host like a accountability call and like some group coaching. We do a meet up on the first Saturday of every single month. There's an app now that we've developed for iPhone and Android, so you can take in all of this content on your phone dead easily. Everything's recorded. If you miss a session, you get access to the video or the audio. So the vault, like the library's got, it's probably like 400 hours worth of like the best acting industry sort of advice and knowledge from the biggest names, you know, out there for you to take in. We're starting to do some sort of like one-off workshops, not acting classes, but more on the technical sides of self-tapes and stuff recently, because they become more and more, you know, valuable in the industry. But ultimately, yeah, it's a solid community. Everyone supports each other. You're obviously a part of it. It's super positive, super motivating. Like, we zero tolerance to negativity. Everybody looks after everybody. We all support each other. And yeah, I've just seen people more and more successful every week.
As I've said, you know, I'm a member of the community, the Act on This community, and you know, in this last year with the pandemic, it's been a horrendous year, but actually there's some positives that have come out of that. You know, people have been at home more, so they've concentrated on some of their creativity, putting together their self-tapes. There's been Zoom auditions, and not everyone likes that, but that's perhaps something that's going to come out of COVID. Is that's a positive way forward, because more people can be seen more quickly, you know, and you don't have to take into account the travel, etc. So I think that's a great positive. And yeah, being part of the community, something you hadn't mentioned, you said about support, but I think that's an incredible part of the Act on This community, is the support. And I think the mentorship that you give everyone, and that kind of giving confidence to people, where, you know, it's like knowing the business is being confident about it and knowing what to do next. And that's, you know, in this last year, being part of that meant I have an agent now, which is great. Boom. You know,
I love it.
Yeah, boom.
That's amazing. No, honestly.
So I know that it's a great way of, you know, gaining your confidence, gaining knowledge of the industry. But, you know, we're going to have to wrap this up, I think, now. Is there one final bit of advice that you'd give to anyone, particularly with a disability, that's entering into the industry?
Yeah, I say this all the time. People are probably sick of it hearing me say it, but this was something that I pretty much live by. And I have to remind myself of this all of the time. But I was working with like, I have coaches and mentors in my life as well. I think, you know, for me to coach other people and not have coaches in various areas of my life would be a bit hypocritical to go, you need a coach, but like I don't. And I was working with someone like many years ago, and they said to me, listen, everything you need ultimately to achieve anything you want in your life, you know, to a certain degree. I mean, there's things, I'm never going to be a Formula One driver, Sophie, because of my eyes, but you know what, most other things, if there's, you know, realistically, if I want to achieve something that is within, you know, sort of my realm, I can do it. They said everything you need to achieve what it is you want is within you now. You just have to have the courage to see it through. And I remind myself of that in every audition that I go into, rather than walking into the room with this little voice in my head saying, don't forget your lines, don't forget your lines, don't forget your lines, don't forget your lines, which we've all done at one point. That voice in my head is now saying everything you need, everything I need is within me now, and I have the courage to see it through. Everything I need is within me now, and I have the courage to see it through. So it's about just positive self-talk and realizing that, you know what, like sometimes, as we've alluded to today, like with disability or not, we often get in our own way. If we want to see change and we want to see more representation, we've got to play a big part of that ourselves. And we do have what we need to do that in us if we have the courage to speak up, ask for what we want, and go out there, you know, and get it really. So yeah, the advice is, I guess it is just to be more courageous. Like we said before, 5 seconds of courage can honestly change your life.
That is a brilliant positive note to end on. Thank you, Ross. I think the message is kind of believe in making it possible, you know.
Yeah, because it is
a great note to end on. Thank you so much. It's been great chatting to you, and good luck with everything you're doing in the future.
Likewise. Thank you very much for having me. Very much have enjoyed chatting. I appreciate it.
And to coin a phrase, Ross, which you use all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Shall we do it?
Let's do it. 3, 2, 1.
Bye for now.
Yes.